These potatoes sell for $40 to $60 a kilogram at specialty grocers. Japanese specialty potato varieties that most people have never tasted because the price puts them completely out of reach. This trash bag produced 3 kilograms of them for the cost of one standard garbage bag. No specialty store. No imported seed potato supplier charging premium prices. No growing experience required. The method that makes this possible is sitting in your kitchen right now, and every popular Japanese potato video completely misses the starting point that makes it free. Stay with me. By the end of this video, you will never pay specialty store prices for these potatoes again. Drop a comment right now and tell me what country you are watching from. I want to know exactly where this community is growing from. Why Japanese potato eaters fail the home grower completely. Here's the problem with every Japanese specialty potato video currently on this platform. They either cover standard potato growing methods and apply them generically to Japanese varieties without addressing the specific differences that make these varieties behave differently in containers, or they focus exclusively on expensive seed potato suppliers as the only viable starting point, completely ignoring the free propagation method that makes this entire system accessible. The result is home growers who either cannot source the varieties at a price that makes growing worthwhile, or who source them correctly and then apply the wrong growing methodology and harvest a fraction of what the variety is capable of producing. Here is what I'm doing differently today. I'm covering the free sourcing method first, then the specific container behavior of Japanese potato varieties and why standard trash bag potato advice fails them, then the exact system, mix, planting depth, hilling schedule, feeding, and harvest, calibrated specifically to the unique growth pattern of Japanese specialty varieties. Everything the other videos skip. Starting now. Darastanding Japanese specialty potatoes. What makes them different before covering the method? You need to understand what makes Japanese specialty potatoes behave differently from standard varieties in a container situation. This understanding is what separates a system that works from one that produces disappointing results despite correct execution. Japanese specialty potatoes fall into 3 primary categories relevant to home container growing. Inca Gold, also sold as Inca Bella and Papa Amarilla in some markets. Originally a South American heritage variety popularized in Japan for its deep yellow flesh, buttery flavor, and high dry matter content. Produces small to medium oval tubers with thin edible skin. The thin skin is both the quality feature and the primary growing challenge. Thin-skin varieties are significantly more sensitive to soil temperature fluctuations than standard thick-skin varieties. Temperature swings above 80 degrees Fahrenheit in the root zone suppress tuber development completely in thin-skinned Japanese varieties. Kita Akari, one of the most popular specialty potato varieties in Japan. Similar to Yukon Gold in appearance but with higher sugar content and a more complex flavor profile. Produces medium-sized tubers with slightly thicker skin than Inca Gold. More forgiving in container conditions than Inca Gold. Better choice for first-time Japanese variety growers. Saitama Maru, round, white-fleshed, extremely high starch content. Used primarily for Japanese cooking applications requiring specific texture. Produces prolifically in container situations but requires the longest growing season of the 3 to 100 to 120 days minimum for full development. The growth behavior that separates all 3 from standard varieties in a trash bag system. Japanese specialty varieties produce more but smaller tubers per plant than standard commercial varieties. Where a russet Burbank plant produces 8 to 12 large tubers, a Kita Akari plant produces 20 to 35 smaller tubers. This higher tuber count per plant means the root zone in a trash bag system becomes more densely packed with developing tubers, and the hilling management must be more precise to prevent competition between tubers at the same depth level. The progressive hilling approach from the standard trash bag method works, but the interval timing must be shortened. Japanese varieties respond to hilling every 3 weeks rather than the 4-week interval used for standard varieties. The more frequent hilling creates more formation layers within the same season and matches the higher tuber production rate of these varieties. The free Sulrican Metum. This is what nobody covers. This is the section that makes the entire method financially viable, and it is completely absent from every Japanese potato growing video I have reviewed. Japanese specialty potato varieties are available in Asian grocery stores, Japanese supermarkets, and online Asian food retailers in most countries at prices significantly lower than specialist seed potato suppliers charge for the same varieties. The difference is that grocery store potatoes are sold as food, not as seed. Standard Western advice says never plant grocery store potatoes because of growth inhibitor treatment and disease risk. That advice applies to standard commercial potato varieties processed through Western supply chains. Japanese specialty potatoes sold through Asian grocery networks are almost universally untreated with growth inhibitor. The Japanese culinary market demands potatoes with visible eye development as a freshness indicator. Treating them with sprout inhibitor would make them unsellable in that market. The potatoes you find in Asian grocery stores showing eye development are ready to plant without any pre-treatment. How to identify plantable Japanese potatoes at the grocery store? Look for potatoes showing visible eye development, small raised nubs or short sprouts at the eye positions. These are the best candidates. They have already broken dormancy and will establish faster than dormant potatoes. Avoid any potato showing soft spots, dark discoloration, or a fermented smell. These indicate internal rot that will spread to surrounding soil after planting. The Variety Identification Challenge. Japanese grocery potatoes are often labeled by Japanese variety name only. Kita Akari will be labeled as such. Inca Gold may be labeled as Papa Amarilla or by a local market name. If you are uncertain about variety, ask the store staff or photograph the label and search the Japanese name with the word potato to confirm the variety. In countries where Asian grocery stores are not accessible, parts of Africa, the Caribbean, and rural areas in various countries, Japanese specialty potato varieties can be sourced through online specialty food retailers. Purchase the smallest available quantity as food product rather than from seed potato suppliers, and the cost difference is significant. The seed-saving method that makes this permanently free after the first purchase. Every Japanese specialty potato variety can be propagated from tubers saved from the previous harvest. After your first harvest, covered in detail later in this video, select the 6 to 8 smallest, healthiest tubers with the most visible eye development. These become your seed stock for the following season. Allow them to cure in open air for 2 weeks after harvest. Store in a cool, dark location at 40 to 50 degrees Fahrenheit. These saved tubers are your permanent free seed source. You purchase Japanese specialty potatoes once, as food, and grow them for free every season thereafter. This is the propagation loop that no competitor video closes, and it is the entire financial case for this method. Preparing your trash bag for Japanese variety success. The trash bag setup for Japanese specialty varieties requires 3 specific modifications from standard trash bag potato method that address the unique growing characteristics of these varieties. Modification 1. Bag color selection based on variety. Inca Gold and other thin-skinned Japanese varieties are highly sensitive to root zone heat. Use white or translucent contractor-grade trash bags exclusively for these varieties in any climate with warm summers. Black bags in direct sun push root zone temperatures above 80 degrees, the threshold that shuts down tuber development in thin-skinned varieties completely. Kita Akari and Saitama Maru are slightly more heat-tolerant. In cool climates, UK, Canada, Northern USA, Northern Europe, black bags work for these varieties and provide beneficial root zone warming in cool spring conditions. In warm climates, any tropical or subtropical environment, white bags for all 3 varieties without exception. For gardeners watching from Nigeria, Ghana, Jamaica, India, and the Philippines, white contractor bags are the only option for Japanese variety success in your climate. This is not a preference. It is a requirement determined by the temperature sensitivity of these varieties. Modification 2. Drainage density. Japanese specialty varieties produce higher tuber counts per plant than standard varieties. More tubers forming simultaneously means higher water demand from the root zone. It also means more tuber tissue potentially in contact with pooled moisture at the bag base. Punch 30 drainage holes across the base and lower 4 inches of the bag sides, not the standard 15 to 20 holes used for standard varieties. The increased drainage density prevents any moisture pooling at the base where the highest density of tubers will form in the lower production layers. Modification 3. Initial fill depth. Start with a shallower initial fill than the standard sweet potato or standard potato trash bag method recommends. Fill to 8 inches deep rather than 12 inches. The shallower start gives Japanese variety root systems more vertical space to extend downward before encountering the bag base while maintaining sufficient distance for the progressive hilling layers. Above, Japanese varieties produce their highest quality tubers in the upper and middle hilling layers, not in the base layer. The shallower start creates more total bag depth available for the upper and middle layers where quality is highest. The exact mix for Japanese variety performance Japanese specialty potatoes has specific growing medium requirements that standard potato container guides never address because those guides were not written with these varieties in mind. The quality characteristic that distinguishes Japanese specialty potatoes, their high dry matter content, complex flavor, and thin, delicate skin, is directly influenced by the mineral content and drainage characteristics of the growing medium. Grow them in the wrong medium and they produce adequate yields of potatoes that taste like standard potatoes. Grow them in the right medium and the quality difference is immediately apparent at harvest. The specific medium failure that destroys Japanese variety quality. Standard potting mix in a trash bag becomes dense and moisture retentive within 6 to 8 weeks of regular watering. Japanese specialty varieties growing in dense medium develop thicker skins as a stress response to restricted root expansion. The thin edible skin that defines these varieties as premium products only develops when root expansion is unrestricted throughout the growing season. The mix formula that maintains loose, unrestricted expansion space all season. 1 part coconut coir, 1 part perlite 40% volume, higher than standard, 1 part finished compost, 1 part coarse horticultural sand. The elevated perlite ratio is the critical difference from standard container potato mix. At 40% volume, perlite particles are dense enough throughout the mix that they physically prevent the coir and compost from closing the expansion space between them, regardless of water cycling frequency. Root expansion is unrestricted. Tubers develop thin skins because they expand through a medium that offers minimal resistance. The mineral addition that directly influences Japanese potato flavor. Add 1 tablespoon of agricultural sulfur per gallon of mix volume. Japanese specialty potato flavor complexity. The specific nuttiness, butteriness, and sweetness that distinguishes these varieties from standard potatoes is partially determined by sulfur-containing compounds in the tuber tissue. Sulfur in the growing medium is a direct precursor to these flavor compounds. This is the same principle used in Japanese commercial potato cultivation in volcanic soil regions of Hokkaido, where the highest quality Japanese specialty potatoes are produced. Hokkaido soil is naturally high in sulfur from volcanic mineral deposits. Replicating that mineral profile in your container mix replicates a key aspect of the growing conditions that produce premium quality Japanese potatoes. Agricultural sulfur is inexpensive and widely available at garden centers and agricultural supply stores globally. So working and preparing your starting tubers. Whether you are using grocery store Japanese potatoes or saved seed from a previous harvest, the preparation steps before planting determine your germination speed, establishment rate, and early season growth trajectory. Selection criteria at the grocery store or from saved stock. Size range. Select tubers between the size of a large walnut and a small egg. This specific size range contains sufficient stored energy to power strong establishment without requiring cutting. Cutting Japanese specialty variety tubers introduces rot risk at cut surfaces that is disproportionately high for thin-skinned varieties. Uncut tubers of the correct size establish faster and with lower loss rate than cut tubers. Eye development. Select tubers with at least 3 visible eyes showing clear nub development. Multiple active eyes produce multiple shoots. Multiple shoots from one tuber produce a wider above-ground canopy. A wider canopy produces more photosynthetic surface area. More photosynthetic surface area produces more energy for underground tuber development. The pre-sprouting technique calibrated for Japanese varieties. Place selected tubers in a single layer in a bright location at 55 to 65 degrees Fahrenheit, not direct sun, bright indirect light. This temperature range is slightly cooler than the standard 65 to 75 degree pre-sprouting recommendation for standard varieties. Japanese specialty varieties develop short, compact sprouts at the cooler temperature range. These compact sprouts are structurally stronger and survive planting without breakage at higher rates than the longer, more fragile sprouts that develop at warmer pre-sprouting temperatures. Allow 3 to 4 weeks for sprout development. Target sprout length of ½ inch to 1 inch. Compact. Green or purple depending on variety. Sturdy enough to resist handling pressure during planting. The 24-hour pre-plant soap that accelerates first-season establishment. Submerge pre-sprouted tubers in a diluted liquid seaweed extract solution, 1 tablespoon per gallon of water at room temperature for 24 hours immediately before planting. Seaweed extract is rich in natural cytokinins and auxins, plant hormones that activate cell division and root initiation. Soaking pre-sprouted tubers in this solution primes the already active sprout tissue to produce root hairs faster after planting. Establishment in the growing medium begins 7 to 10 days earlier than unsoaked tubers for a variety that produces premium quality food. 7 to 10 days of additional established growth time translates directly to higher tuber weight at harvest, particularly important in climates with limited growing seasons. Planting depths, orientation, and the first hilling planting technique for Japanese specialty varieties in a trash bag requires more precision than standard potato planting because of the higher tuber count per plant and the thinner skin sensitivity to physical damage during harvest. Planting depth. Plant tubers at 3 inches below the surface of the initial 8-inch fill, not the standard 2-inch depth used for standard varieties. The additional inch of depth places the tuber in the consistently cool zone below the surface temperature fluctuation zone. For thin-skin varieties like Inca Gold, even minor temperature fluctuations at shallow planting depths cause stress responses that thicken skin tissue. 3 inches deep keeps the tuber in thermally stable conditions during the critical establishment phase. Tuber orientation. Place each tuber with the dominant eye cluster, the area showing the most active sprout development, facing upward. In a trash bag with a single plant, position the tuber centrally. In a larger bag accommodating 2 plants, position tubers at opposite sides of the bag. Dominant eye clusters facing upward and slightly inward toward the center. Why inward-facing orientation for 2-plant bags? Shoots emerging from inward-facing eye clusters grow upward through the center of the bag where light penetration from above is strongest. Shoots directed outward toward the bag walls receive less light from above and more reflected light from the bag exterior, less total light energy per shoot. Central emergence maximizes early photosynthetic efficiency, which accelerates the transition from seed energy dependence to soil energy independence. The first hilling trigger and technique. Wait until emerged shoots reach 8 to 10 inches above the current mixed surface. For Japanese specialty varieties, do not hill before 8 inches. Early hilling buries actively growing tip tissue that is in the process of producing the leaf area needed for photosynthetic independence. Burying this tissue prematurely stresses the plant during its most vulnerable establishment phase. At 8 to 10 inches, fold the bag upward by 4 inches. Add hilling mix, 1 part straw, 1 part compost, 1 part perbolite, identical to the base mix minus the sand, to fill the newly created space. Leave 3 to 4 inches of shoot visible above the new surface. The lighter hilling mix composition is critical. Standard soil hilling additions compress under their own weight and restrict the upward stem extension that must occur between hilling events. Light straw compost perlite mix stays loose and allows stems to push upward with minimal resistance. The hilling ostrudel specific to Japanese varieties. This is the schedule adjustment that competitor guides never make for Japanese variety bags, and it is responsible for the yield difference between adequate results and premium results. Standard trash bag potato hilling occurs every 4 weeks. Japanese specialty variety hilling occurs every 3 weeks. The reason for the shorter interval. Japanese varieties produce tubers at a higher rate per unit of growing time than standard varieties. In the 3-week window between hilling events, the plant produces new stem extension and initiates new tuber formation nodes faster than standard varieties do in 4 weeks. Hilling at 3-week intervals captures each new formation zone before the developing tubers at that level become overcrowded and begin competing for expansion space. 4-week intervals allow overcrowding to develop in the highest production zones before the next hilling creates new space. The complete hilling schedule for a Japanese specialty variety bag in a standard season. Hilling 1. Shoots at 8 to 10 inches. Add hilling mix. Leave 3 to 4 inches visible. Hilling 2. 3 weeks later. Shoots again.